The Pacers stunned the Cavs to open round 2. What other surprises lie ahead as we get down to 8 teams? Who will win the MVP battle out west? And the Spurs moved quickly on their new coaching hire. Will it hurt Victor Wembanyama and their rebuild? That's all today on Locked On NBA.
You are Locked On NBA, your daily NBA podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On NBA. Thanks so much for making us your first listen of the day. We are free. We are available wherever you get your podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. This episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances today with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNBA at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. I'm Doug Branson, host of Locked On Hornets and your Shot Clock Sherpa, guiding you through the NBA's biggest stories with the help of Locked On's local experts. And I have two of the best with me as always from the Locked On Nuggets podcast and senior NBA writer for the Action Network. It's Matt Moore. Matt.
The Pacers are agents of chaos, just bringing madness with them wherever they go, and I love them for it.
They have been all regular season. They bring it to the postseason. You're definitely right about that. From the Locked On Bulls podcast, we've got Haize. Haize.
It's been some really good basketball this weekend, some surprises. We've got some game sevens and an upset in the second round. It's really good basketball going on right now.
And much more to come. The Pacers' brilliant offense and the Warriors' stifling defense led to 2 upset victories to open the week. After giving up 120 points to Indiana, you would think the top-seeded Cavs would have more questions about their defense, but no, says Danny Cunningham of Locked On Cavs. They need better O.
Atkinson after the game said our offense let us down. Like it's easy to look at this and say the Pacers shot, as you said, the snot out of the basketball. And they did. And can the Cavs be better defensively? Yes, they need to be better defensively. This was not a championship caliber effort on either end of the floor for them. They were a great offense from start to finish this year, and they didn't play like it. They can talk about being a defense-first identity type team, and they do that. And there were stretches certainly in the third quarter when they went on that 13-0 run or 14-0 run. And yes, getting stops is when this team is going to look its best. But at the end of the day, this is a series where, especially as we talk about starting Sam Merrill, they're leaning into offense. They need to score more than 112 points against this Pacers team. Like I agree with Kenny that they were let down on both ends of the floor, but I look at this as more of an offensive issue than a defensive issue.
That was Danny Cunningham and Tony East of Locked On Pacers coming to you from the Q after the game on a crossover edition of both shows. Check that out. Matt, agree or disagree with Kenny and Danny's assessment about the offense being the issue over the defense?
Yeah, Danny was awful confident coming into the series, and I get why, but Danny's kind of finding out that the playoffs are not going to be about the Heat. Like the crossover episode he and Tony did before the series was basically like, look what they did to the Heat. And the entire time I'm in the car going, who cares? Play an actual team. And we see kind of what happens here. I disagree from this perspective. The Pacers, the most impressive thing that they did in game 1, Rick Carlisle absolutely ramped up the pace. This year, the Pacers were actually not that fast of a team, Haize. Like they were not last year's like up and down Pacers. They played at like a moderate pace. They were good offense, pretty good defense. We're not this up and down. They put the Jets on in game 1. They were getting, even when they weren't getting transition stuff, they were getting into sets. I was clocking it. 17 on the clock. They're initiating first action so that they've got all this time to work that Cavs defense. If the Cavs were able to get stops, they could set up their offense, I think, a little bit better against maybe a scrambled Pacers defense. But instead, the Pacers set the tone of that game for the pace and the tempo. And that was a big reason why the Pacers got the win. I was really impressed with Carlisle's game plan in game 1.
It was a near perfect game plan. Like I did not expect them to be able to have that level of success as far as this early in the series because of the Cavs defense and how it is, but they knew exactly how to attack them, and they were no slouches defensively themselves. They were very active on both sides of the ball. What the Pacers did here as far as balancing everything out, you had Nimhard. I always mispronounce his name, with 21 points. Tyrese Haliburton didn't even have to do like all of the heavy lifting. Like it was a solid game overall. I love the way that they went out and performed that game. Like it just, they attacked them with balance and intentionality that it seemed like the Cavs just were not prepared for.
Donovan Mitchell, 33 points, but 1 of 11 from the three-point line. And, they mentioned starting Sam Merrill. Was that a mistake? Should they have gone with Ty Jerome? Was the mistake not the offense didn't perform well enough, but that they went all in on offense?
Yeah, I don't know Sam Merrill? I went into the series in the preview and was like, oh, I'm not worried. Kenny Atkinson's been around. He knows what he's doing. There's not going to be anything crazy. He won't do anything wildly stupid. And then Sam Merrill started game one? Sam Merrill? Dean Wade's right there. Just go big. Come on, man. Just absolutely ridiculous.
Haize, were you more surprised that the Pacers were able to steal game one from the Cavs or that the younger Rockets couldn't up in the Warriors in game 7?
More surprised that the Pacers came into Cleveland and stole game one. The Rockets not winning, I wanted to see the Rockets win, but it didn't surprise me that they lost. But the Pacers winning game one, I just didn't have that on my card.
Matt, of the 8 remaining teams, are there any that you are counting out as a possible contender to move on to the finals after that upset victory by the Pacers?
The Golden State Warriors. They're frauds. They are absolute frauds, and they should be removed from this postseason field by the Minnesota Timberwolves.
Oh, well, perfect transition. Let's move to the Golden State Warriors, who nearly blew a 3-1 lead over the Rockets, but pulled it out thanks to 33 points on 12 of 15 shooting from none other than Buddy Hield and a defense that simply would not quit. No time to dwell in victory with the Wolves at the door, rested and hungry. Here's Locked On Warriors with a preview.
You're a Warriors fan thinking, it's not going to be brutally difficult. You've got another thing coming because that team is deep. They are talented. They're more talented than the Rockets, play nearly as good defense, have nearly as much size, and have multiple guys that you trust as go-to scorers more than anybody on this Rockets team. If the Warriors can't find more than 20 bench minutes of production, literally 22 minutes of bench play tonight, they have no shot. They have a lot of good defenders on this team, but nobody really well suited to play defense one-on-one against Anthony Edwards. So it is going to be a creative defensive approach. I expect to see them blitz and double team him a lot. I expect every single person from, Gary Payton on the short end to Draymond on the tall end to get their shot defending Anthony Edwards.
All right, so we got a little bit of a preview of what Matt thinks about the Warriors' chances. What about you, Haize? Will the Warriors' biggest obstacle in this series be their lack of a reliable third scorer or the lack of a single defender that can hang with Anthony Edwards?
I mean, both. No, definitely not nobody to hang with. Anthony Edwards is playing at another level right now, and if he continues this against the Golden State Warriors, I don't know how they're going to stop him. I don't know if they have a defender. They don't have Andre Iguodala anymore on this team, and I don't know if Jimmy Butler's going to be definitely not going to be able to stick with Ant for a full series. So, I just not to count the Golden State Warriors out completely, because one thing I've learned when you have a team of vets that are motivated, they can find a way. But right now, Anthony Edwards is just too powerful right now, I think, for the Golden State Warriors to stop.
Wolves in 5. One of the problems here is that, the Warriors are like, we will go small because that has always worked for us, even though our roster is way worse than before. Okay, say hi to Naz Reid. Unless Julius Randle turns back into an absolute playoff turtle, entirely possible. The Warriors are facing an optionality problem here. The Wolves can construct a lot of different lineups to combat whatever it is that they need. If they do, in fact, play Rudy Gobert off the floor, which is very hard at this point, especially with the mediocre to bad Warriors offense that they're bringing into this series, then they're still able to go with Naz Reid and Randle at the small ball style while still staying big. They're able to space the floor effectively. This Wolves team is a better 3-point shooting team than the Warriors. Think about that. The Warriors, they're a way better volume and percentage team than the Golden State Warriors. Buddy Hield had a good series versus the Rockets because the bar was this low. Now he's going to have to actually be a 16 gamer versus a real playoff team. I really do think the Wolves are going to absolutely stomp here.
So the Wolves beat the Lakers in 5, a team that also had to play small. You've got them beating the Warriors in 5. Obviously, they can only play who they're going to play, but do you think it's going to hurt the Wolves having played 2 small teams and then having to face either Oklahoma City or Denver?
No, because they have so many. They are just Denver was so glad to get out of Minnesota's bracket. They hate that matchup. They just hate it. The Wolves have owned them, and now it's like a mental thing. It's not just like matchup wise. It's a mental thing too. And then with, the Thunder, Wolves took 2 off of them too. And they've got the ability, I think, to beat them big. I think that's the thing is the Thunder are not built to go small anymore. Like they have 2 bigs that are really good that they want to play. And the Wolves are excited if you want to bring 2 bigs into their lineup. So again, like they have a real chance here to come out of the Western Conference as a 6 seed.
Haize, final word.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think they have an amazing chance to get to the Western Conference Finals, and I mean, I'm probably going to bet on them. That's what it is. So,
all right, there you have it. Coming up on the Locked On NBA, we look ahead to tonight's matchup, including a battle of 2 MVP candidates in Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and Nikola Jokic. That's all ahead on Locked On NBA. Today's episode of Locked On NBA is sponsored by BetterHelp. The world has come a long way in how we talk about mental health, but we still have work to do. Too many people skip therapy out of a fear or stigma when really taking care of your mind should be just as normal as taking care of your body, going to the gym. This Mental Health Awareness Month, let's normalize asking for help, because when people feel supported, everyone benefits at home, at work, and across entire communities. I've learned that therapy isn't just for when things fall apart. It's a tool to stay grounded, just like when you go to the gym, you go there to stay fit. With BetterHelp, getting started is simple. It's 100% online, gives you access to over 30,000 licensed therapists, and you can switch providers anytime at no extra cost. We're all better with help. Visit BetterHelp.com/LockedOnNBA to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/LockedOnNBA. More Locked On NBA ahead. Thanks for making Locked On NBA your first listen every day. And make sure you're checking out Locked On NBA Game Night. It's every game, every night. They are recapping all of the playoff action, and it is on this same feed, whether you're listening or watching us on YouTube. Let's look ahead to the matchups we have tonight. Nuggets Thunder, Game 1. Locked On Thunder talked about their major X factors and storylines. The top storyline, I think you know, but in case you don't, here's Rylan.
The MVPs. I mean, these 2 guys will soon, finish 1 and 2 in 2 consecutive years once the league actually announces the MVP award. The early polls suggest that Shai will win the MVP this season, and he'll be crowned the MVP likely next week. It's going to be a series that is largely dependent on which of these 2 guys, top players in the world, fares better.
Although they're going to be going back and forth, they're never going to be guarding each other, which is a little bit different. Sometimes you have these like guard versus guard, center versus center, forward versus forward. So really excited to see what both those guys have. We've seen Jokic put it into another gear in the playoffs many, many different times. Last year we saw it with Shai against the Mavericks, specifically in that Game 4 that you and I were at, where he made it felt like 20 straight points in the third and fourth quarter to pull away and give the Thunder that win.
Shai wants to be, the greatest player in the world. He wants to be at that level, and to do that, you need success in these moments.
Matt, what do you think? Shai or Jokic, which player will be more vital to winning this series for their team?
Can I give you a history lesson real quick? 1995, David Robinson gets the MVP award over Hakeem Olajuwon. The Spurs that season won 62 games. Gosh, so many games. They won over 60. The Houston Rockets, though, only won 47. Oh, man, they can't win when you can't get the MVP when you have that. And then Hakeem showed up and absolutely torched the Admiral in that series to secure the victory and advance to the second straight finals. Very interesting parallels. I do think that this is going to be a fascinating series from these perspectives. Shai's got a much easier task. The Nuggets will give him a switch of Jamal Murray onto him way too often, and he torched that in the regular season. Meanwhile, Jokic is going to see a crowd, as always. It's going to come down to Michael Porter Jr., Aaron Gordon, and of course, Russell Westbrook. Can they hit those corner threes once again? Because they're going to dare those guys to hit shots just like the Clippers did. They did in round 1. We'll see if they can do it in round 2.
This is going to be such just a treat to watch, that the 1 and 2 player in the MVP voting get to face off against each other and who uses it as motivation in that same series. Jokic is so important to everything that the Denver Nuggets do. Like, we've seen that. So he's definitely no shade on SGA at all, but like, if the Nuggets have a chance to win the series, if they're going to have a chance to win the series, you're going to need Jokic averaging superhuman stat lines, which unfortunately we've seen him do before and pretty regularly. So it's going to be a treat to behold, but I think Jokic is going to have a very special series for the Nuggets to get past the OKC Thunder.
Matt, there's been a lot of chatter before this game about the coaching change from Mike Malone to David Adelman and the effects that has had really across the board for the Denver Nuggets and allowing them to get over the LA Clippers. Do you buy into that, or is that just sort of pre-series chatter?
No, I mean, I think the move to Adelman has made a tangible effect. Like, I'm a Michael Malone guy. I think he was absolutely tremendous for that franchise. And I think the way that he was shown the door with a week to go was absolutely disrespectful to him. I can't deny it needed to happen because the energy really has shifted. Now, I put that more on the players, where I'm like, really? You guys couldn't do your job until this guy that helped get you a title is gone? Really? But that's the reality of it. And Adelman, I thought, acquitted himself so well. There was so much talk about this being a huge coaching mismatch in the first round. Oh my God, Ty Lue, he might go small. And now we see the reality, and Adelman whipped his ass over the last 3 games of that series. So I think that the move ultimately paid off. This is going to be a very fascinating coaching matchup with Daigneault versus Adelman in the second round.
We're going to give both of you plenty of time to take your final shots at the LA Clippers as we say farewell to them in the next segment. But first, I want to talk about Celtics-Knicks. Celtics host the Knicks tonight for Game 1. John Corrales of Locked On Celtics hosted Locked On Knicks host Gavin Shaw, but did not hide his confidence that the Celtics would take this series very quickly.
The Celtics, I think, coming out of the Magic series, it showed me that they're, if you want to make this a wrestling match, make it a wrestling match. If you want to make it a track meet, make it a track meet. And I kind of like developed a new appreciation for just how differently they can win. Be shocked if it goes 7. I think the Celtics coming out of that Magic series with all that rest, and I know the Knicks are getting some rest too, but there's a level of like confidence in having won the way that they won. And I think facing that defense now, they're like, oh, I am untethered here, and it's going to be a lot of fun. I think looking forward to running the offense the way we know it. I'm going to say Celtics in 5 with, leaving open like, okay, maybe Karl-Anthony Towns wins you a game.
All right, Matt, is that confidence deserved from John Corrales and the Boston Celtics?
Yeah, because he gets to play the Knicks. Like, it is just really funny to hear John be like, I'm just so impressed. John, how many times can you be impressed with the team? Like, everything impresses you. They walk off the bus and you're like, look at the confidence that they play with. I was not expecting that. They beat the Magic. Can you imagine, Haize? They beat the Magic. At the same time, they're going to stop this Knicks team. They are completely outmatched. This Knicks team cannot defend with Brunson and Cat. They cannot limit 3-pointers. They cannot do any of the things that you have to do to give yourself a chance versus the Boston Celtics. And so they're going to absolutely roll in the series. I'm with John on Celtics in 5.
Yeah, Celtics in 5 is the safe bet here. I know that John, I'll make fun of him for how many times during the season he said best Celtics win of the season. But he's going to say that a couple of times during this playoffs, I think, against this Knicks team. I know he said Karl-Anthony Towns win you a game. I mean, I'm looking out for Jalen Brunson to have a crazy game to get them at least one win. But the Celtics have just too much. They play the math game too well. They play defense too well. The New York Knicks have just been too bad against the top teams in the league. So Boston Celtics in 5. I think we're all in simpatico here.
I think a lot of people were in simpatico about the Lakers topping the Wolves as well. A lot of people had Lakers in 6, and it completely flipped, and the Wolves got that one in 5. So let me ask the natural question here. If the Knicks want to defy all of you and John Corrales and make this, not win the series, but just make it an interesting series, what has to happen, Haize?
Ooh, Karl Anthony Towns and Jalen Brunson have to actually play like at the top level that they can. Those two have to have an amazing series for you to get you there offensively. And Karl Anthony Towns is going to have to step up some defensively as well, which seem sprinkle in there from time to time. But those two, if the Knicks want to make this more interesting than Celtics in 5, you're going to need great series. I'm talking about like they're going to have to play some of the best basketball that they've played together all season.
Force switches, punish on the interior with Towns, make them have to adjust their rotations, make them have to change their defensive scheme. Towns has to be the one to leverage that. On the other side, Tom Thibodeau is going to have to come up with the first new defensive scheme that he has in 700 years. So he's going to have to build an entirely new scheme that actually is going to prevent three-pointers. This Knicks team gives up threes at a very high rate, and that's a lot because of Brunson and Towns. The idea, again, when you bring in Wingstop, is you're going to be able to switch everything. You can't do that with Towns, and you can't do that with Brunson together. You can do it with one, but not with both on the floor. They're just not going to be able to hold the perimeter in containment to prevent those threes. Derek White averaged 4.8 threes per game on 54% three-point shooting in the regular season versus the Knicks. He gets great looks consistently. He's going to have another great series in this one.
All right, I've got a plan. You get one of those Mission Impossible masks and you disguise Dylan Brooks as Miles McBride, and you just have him constantly slap at Jason Tatum's wrist like he did Steph Curry. I think that's the plan. That could get the Knicks over the hump, I think.
Hey, there you go. It's a good plan. It's a good plan, Doug.
All right, coming up on Locked On NBA, we'll talk about the plan at head coach for the San Antonio Spurs. Did they move too quickly and possibly break their rebuild with Victor Wembanyama by making the hire that they did? Plus, we'll say farewell to the 2 playoff teams that we lost over the weekend. That's coming up on Locked On NBA. Today's episode of Locked On NBA is brought to you by Monarch Money. Ever check your bank account and wonder, where did all my money go? Between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, it's easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in. It's your personal CFO giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app. It is a complete financial command center with all of your accounts, your investments, and your spending in one place. You can go beyond just managing your money and start actually building wealth. When I started using Monarch, I realized just how much I was spending on streaming services, and spoiler alert, it was a lot. Now I budget smarter and I save more, and the best part is I don't have to use multiple apps. I just use Monarch to check my finances, track my spending, and plan out my long-term goals. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNBA at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. 50%. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONNBA for half off your first year. More Locked On NBA ahead. Thanks again for making Locked On NBA your first listen every day. Let's take a moment to say goodbye to the teams that we lost over the weekend, starting with the Houston Rockets, who reverted back to the team that we saw a lot in the regular season, the one that struggled to break 90 points. We've been saying goodbye to these teams by asking the question, will they be back? And I've got an addendum for the Rockets. Haize, will the Rockets be back next season to the playoffs with a superstar or the same cast of characters?
They'll be back, and Jalen Green better not be back with them. How about that? I don't know what superstar that is, but Jalen Green needs to not be back with the Houston Rockets next year.
All right.
I can't find the star. Like, KD's not on the timeline, right? Giannis, yes, that would be a little ideal. That'd be pretty good. That's a very good fit. I was talking to somebody, and that is Milwaukee adjacent, and they were saying, well, I'm not doing that deal without Amen Thompson. And I was like, they can't give up Amen. Like, you can't give up Amen Thompson. So like that becomes like the real question here is like, what does that deal look like? And I don't know what it looks like. I don't know what other superstars are. I don't know what's the scoring guard. Is it Trae Young? Is that it? Is like that what they talk themselves into? I don't know what it looks like for them. I am running into the same problem that I ran into with the Magic, where it's Haize, are we out of superstar guards? Like,
I mean, if you're looking for ones that are specifically going to fit the Rockets timeline, then probably yes. Now, I do like KD for the Rockets mainly because I think that gives Amen Thompson time to ascend to be that star, which I do think he can be. But if you're trying to find somebody that's along the same timeline as them, I don't see it happening. So, yeah.
All right, how about LA, who exit the first round again in a whimper? Matt, will the Clippers be back into the playoffs next season?
Maybe, but they're not going anywhere. Once again, do you want to know why? They have no leadership. Zero, zip, zilch. They have no leadership. I am sick and tired of James Harden having 13 assists, having actually tried to navigate and leverage the opponent. He shot terribly, didn't get enough shots up. We know Harden. That's why he's not the highest paid player. Look at Kawhi Leonard, who just like, oh well, Apple man, Apple time. Board man gets paid. That's it. There's nothing that he brings. They needed a boost from him. Harden got them game 6. Harden was instrumental in the first 3 games of the series. And yet Kawhi skates. He had one great game in game 2 and otherwise was a ghost, Haize. This is supposed to be the best player and an elite all-timer. Where was he, Haize? Where was Kawhi?
I don't know. I mean, happy that he was able to stay on the court for a playoff series. I have no idea. I've been trying to take it easy on Clippers. So I'm trying my best to take it easy on them because, I killed them while they were up all season. I'm going to let them breathe while they're down, but they're going to be back in the playoffs. I think they're going to be back in the playoffs. How far they go, it really is determined by how well they fill out that bench, I think, over the offseason, if they even can.
What kills me is if the Clippers look, Ballmer flew all those fans out to Denver on his dime. It's such an awesome move. That arena is great. Their internal organization is terrific. The fan base is ready. Everything is great about the Clippers except who's at the top. Get yourself 2 new best players, and this team, I think, really does have the underlying structure to do something special and finally deliver some success to that fan base that deserves it so much. But they're never going to get there with Harden and Kawhi at the top.
All right, let's move to the San Antonio Spurs. Within hours of the news breaking that Greg Popovich would be stepping down as head coach of the Spurs, we got the news that interim coach Mitch Johnson would be the new head coach. Locked On Spurs host Jeff Garcia discussed the process with guest Rudy Campos Jr. of Sweep the League TV. Did it move too quickly?
We've got Mike Malone, championship under his belt. I mean, you can go as far as Coach Budenholzer, who's got a title under his belt, former Spur guy. But you've also got Taylor Jenkins, who's had some success with younger team, obviously in Memphis. You've seen Mike Brown out there, who's a former Spurs guy, but has good repertoire with a lot of players in the league, especially one De'Aaron Fox, who is in San Antonio. I felt the veteran coaching out there outweighed the interim coaching that Mitch did. And like we've always said, it's not a disrespect to Mitch. He was kind of dealt a really hard hand at the time, taking over somebody, like Pop, and then trying to keep the ship, squared away and, trying to make it go in the right path. But when you look at what's out there right now, coaching wise, so many successful coaches, and then also coaches that may be on the market when the NBA playoffs are done, I just felt like it was a bad move to make that decision right away.
What do you think, Haize? Would the Spurs have benefited from a more robust process?
Probably, but I just don't look at it as that how the Suns do. I mean, the Spurs do business. Like them developing from within and hiring from within. It always felt like the thing that was probably most likely to them. There's some really good coaches out there, yes, but the way that this organization has operated, it didn't surprise me that they went ahead and stayed with their interim coach who's been there, who's been under Pop, who's worked with these guys before. It didn't surprise me. Now, could that come back to bite them later? Yeah, absolutely could, but it's something that felt like business as usual to the Spurs. Not that they've had to change coaches in my lifetime, but it just felt like a Spurs move to go ahead and keep Mitch Johnson on as the permanent head coach.
Isn't most of this just that we don't know Mitch Johnson at all? We don't know anything about him. The Spurs kind of dropped off the radar because they were already out of the playoffs. Then Wemby had the blood clot. So, none of us really paid attention to who they were. after that happened. That to me is a lot of this. Spurs saw a huge offensive jump late in the season. That was notable to me. So I'm really interested to see this. But the Spurs, much like the Thunder let Billy Donovan go, promoted Mark Daigneault because they have a process of evaluating coaches and personnel, and their success has been pretty considerable in that for various roles. Like, think about some of the guys that they've empowered. Former coach of their then Toros, now Austin Spurs G League team was Quinn Snyder. Like, they have an established history. Mike Budenholzer, longtime assistant. Their guys have been great coaches, and they know how to identify them. So I'm willing to give this the benefit of the doubt and say that if the Spurs feel it's the right move, it's the right move.
I think there are so many questions surrounding their roster. Like, obviously, there's no question about Wemby, but there are questions about how do you fully build out that roster around him. I just wonder if this process would have been different had Wemby stayed healthy and they backdoored into the first round. Maybe they get eliminated in 5 or 6 games. But if that process would have been a little bit different, where they would have gone out maybe and sought some veteran playoff leadership to lead that particular team if they were sure about it.
Yeah, I think it's tough to know where the Spurs are at in their development curve. Are they an up and coming team? Are they ready to compete? Like, I think if Victor's able to play next year, I think he's going to finish top 3 in MVP, which is stupid. Like, that's insane. And so I just don't know how you kind of evaluate where they're at in the development curve and how do you know what kind of coach they need with this roster and with Wemby? It's very difficult because of how much Wemby kind of shapes everything, and we still don't know what his status is going to be next season.
Yeah, what do you think, guys?
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I think the Spurs and where they are, like this is a team that with health next season, you don't know where they're going to be. They could be anywhere between the playoff team to maybe getting out of the first round. You just never know. I'm not going to bet on that, but there's a chance that can happen. So the Spurs right now, along the path that they're on, they just need to keep this figured out. I think they have a lot of talent here. They're going to keep building around. Pop's still going to be in the building as the president. So I think the Spurs are in a pretty good place.
I just want to make Doug's day. A story just dropped from the Boston Globe about Joe Mazzulla after losing a Game 7 went to a Costa Rican jungle to train with a chess prodigy. Wow. I will send it to you, Doug. So I'm making your Monday great.
It sounds like a Batman story. Like, it's like he's meeting with Ra's al Ghul. Like, I don't know. This guy, I just love this guy. I cannot get enough Mazzulla. That'll definitely be a contender for favorite things of the week. But we've got a lot ahead of us before we get there. If you like what you heard today, subscribe to Locked On NBA wherever you get podcasts, including YouTube. Thanks so much to Matt and Haize for their expertise as always. Thanks for you for making Locked On NBA your first listen every day. Enjoy tonight's action. Be kind to each other, and we'll see you right back here tomorrow on Locked On NBA.